Welcome to this video on setting up and managing scans with Sync products. Whether you're new to vulnerability scanning or a new user of Sync products, the most fundamental part of vulnerability management is choosing your strategy and identifying the assets you own and how to assess vulnerabilities and other types of risk exposures present in your environment. In this video, we want to demonstrate how to set up a scan and use the various assessment capabilities to effectively identify your assets, select a type of scan assessment types, schedule and execute the scan, and track the status of your activity. What you see on the screen here is a standard dashboard with this in the same product VRM. Your dashboard might be different, whether it's a default for Saint Scanner or VM Security Suite or the VRM product. Setting up a scan, if it's the first time you've logged in, you may only see a visualization at the top that says, would you like to run your first scan? And you select that hyperlink. If you have data existing in the environment, you can go to the Scan tab and use your grid actions and create the job, and a wizard will be present. Anywhere in the environment, you can also use the plus and create various things within Saint, such as creating a job, reports, asset tags, depending on your permissions. So in this case, let's select our scan job from the plus sign. And we'll see a job creation wizard. The basic steps for creating a job is to give the job a name. You can give the job a description, which is optional. And the most important thing is selecting the scan policy. If it's the first time you've run a scan, one of the first things that we recommend is doing a discovery scan. And that will be a basic Windows discovery or network discovery to find the live hosts in the environment. You can also select a little bit more detailed type of scan, such as a port scan, or if it's a web application, web crawling. If you're looking for sensitive content specifically for a scan, you can select sensitive content. And there are a number of other types of policies or basic information gathering. You also have various types of vulnerability scans, and we'll use one of these in this initial setup. You can also do compliance scans for various standards such as PCI, FISMA, HIPAA, and some other policies. We also have custom policies. So you can take any Saint scanning policy and extend that by customizing it and creating your own. In this video, we won't discuss how to customize scan policies, but this is where you would find those customized policies. OVAL and XCCDF are configuration programs. So if you're familiar with CIS or the SCAP program under NIST or DISA-STIGs, those type of programs, they're configuration baselines that give you industry best practices to configure how secure configurations are done in various type of platforms. And so we do support a number of those. Penetration testing is an automated penetration test that uses all the exploits within the Saint repository and attempts to do various types of penetration tests. Host-based assessments, if you're using Saint agents on the host, you can do an agent-based assessment using the host type assessment. In this case, we'll use a vulnerability policy, and we'll do a full vulnerability scan, which is taking all of our probes, identifying the host, and interrogating the host, and executing the probes that are necessary to fully interrogate the host based on its operating systems, configurations, and applications. There are a number of other policies, and I'll just refer you to the user guide and other documentation for those. So for setting up a scan, give the job a name, select the type of scan policy you want to run, go to the next step. At the top of the screen, you'll see a scanning engine that is the default. In this case, the management console has a default scanner. And if there are other scanning engines, such as the case where you have a distributed environment, you can select what available what Sync calls nodes, scanning engines that might be available at those other locations if you're trying to scan a remote location. In our case, we'll just use the default scanning engine and select our cloud-based target. And in this case, we see that the cloud scanner is the one we're using, and that scan status is available to us. You can run all of your scans with authentication based on different platforms such as Windows, Unix, Linux, Mac, AWS, Microsoft Azure, and you can use authentication against your, say, for example, AWS account to assist in pulling in live instances. You can also do a number of databases, as well as specific web application configurations. The Credentials Manager is just a Sync product feature across a number of products that you can store credentials within the Sync product's Credential Manager, and you don't have to share those credentials across your team. They can just check the box, and those credentials will be available for authentication on a scan without them actually having to manage or know the credentials. In this case, we'll run an uncredentialed scan. And there are a number of advanced features for a basic scan setup. Sync products configure these by default, so there's really nothing you have to do by default with this advanced configuration page. One of the most common, however, is email notifications. In that configuration, you'll set up the job, run the type of a scan, and then select the type of report template and the email addressees that you want to receive those emailed reports anytime the scan is executed. In our case, we'll just leave this blank by default and move to the next step. To finish the scan, we'll set up our schedule, and in this case, we'll scan immediately. And maybe we want to run this schedule later tonight because we want to make some changes later this evening. And we want to run this scan later tonight once we've made those changes, and tomorrow we'll have a before and after picture. And so we'll save those changes. So now we have one scan to run now and one scheduled to run later. We can also do scheduled recurring scans. Say, for example, we want to run this same scan every month on the first day of the month, or we can select what specific day. Maybe we want to run it on the second Tuesday of every month. And we'll again select the time. And the number of scans that you want to run, you may want to run this maybe for 3 months and then stop and kind of look at your trends and make adjustments from there. So we'll, in this case, we'll say, let's run this scan on a schedule to run every month for 3 months and then stop. And we'll see our schedules available to us, running immediately, running later this evening. And then we want to run this scan recurring every month for the next 3 months. The scan window is a way to set up the time period or framing a box in terms of when scans are run. Maybe for SLA purposes, we're only allowed to run scans from 9 o'clock at night till 6 a.m. in the morning. So we can set that window. So if the scan is running and it reaches that window of 6 a.m., it will pause and resume during the next open window. So it's a way to not only schedule when you want scans to run, but also to constrain that scanning activity to meet certain, maybe service level agreements. There are a number of rules that you can set in terms of creating tickets within Sync products if you have ticketing within your product line. And of course, the ticketing capability has different rule sets for assignments, such as if it's a Cisco result, assign it to a particular systems administrator. Asset rule sets specific to the VRM product is when you can actually do more robust asset management, select different types of risk rules and those type of things. In this case, for all Sync products, we do support scheduling and creating scan windows. So when we finish, we can look at scan activity a couple of different ways. In the Scan tab, we can see that our current scan that we scheduled is actively running, and we can see the progress. We can also look at the information about the scan. If the scan is complete, we can go into this user interface and rerun jobs without actually having to go through that process again. We can go right to a data analysis and look at either intermediate results while a scan is actively running, or it's just a quick way to get to the Analyze page and look at detailed record level results. We can also stop and delete the scan, of course. We can pause scans and we can stop them before they've completed. We can also look at the scan schedule and we can look at a calendar view to see the different types of scans that we have running throughout the month. We can look at a day at a glance, month, week. And in this case, for the month of April, we see we have a number of scans that have run. And there's different color coding to show whether a scan is scheduled to run or it's actively in progress or a scan has been previously run and is completed. So we can resume back to our scan activity. In this case, we'll stop our scan. So this concludes the demonstration on how to set up scans for different Sync products. We hope this video has been informative and helped contribute to greater value in your vulnerability and risk management program.